Good evening to everyone. Am I
Good evening,
audible?
sir. Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay. Yes. Till yesterday we have covered the nature, the history, and we have started the scope of public administration. And within the scope, we have started that the in the scope of public administration, we have seen that the public administration as a activity of the government, it has included many things because the scope of public administration is no less than the scope of state activity, because in public administration we have included the activities of the state is included at the public administration. So all the activities which the state is doing, that comes under the purview of the public administration. And as you know, in the modern welfare state, people expect many things, so a variety of service, protection from the government, and etc. So in this context, public administration provides a number of welfare and social security service to the people. It has to manage also government owned industries, regulate private industries. So overall, if you see, public administration covers every area and activity within the ambit of the public policy. So the public administration, the scope of public administration is very wide in modern state. So the scope of public administration as a discipline, that is subject of the study, comprises of the post-curve view, then comes the subject matter view. So these two things comes under this. So post-curve view, several writers or several thinkers of public administration has defined the scope of public administration in varying terms. For example, Luther and Gullick. Gullick has summed up the scope of public administration with the word post-curve. So post-curve asserts the full form: P for planning, O for organization, S for staffing, D for directing, CO for coordinating, R for reporting, and B for budgeting. So one by one, when we'll discuss the planning, what do you mean by planning? Planning means the working out in a broad outline the things to be done. So generally planning means the working out in a broad outline the things which we have to do, the method to be adapted to accomplish the purpose. So the planning means we every day, every second, we have to plan for something. For example, when I have come for this class today, I have planned that what I should teach within these 2 hours. After the class, also I think that how I will manage my family, how I manage my home affairs, and other things. Everything comes under this. The second, the O for organization. So organization means the establishment of the formal structure of authority through which the work is subdivided, arranged, defined, and coordinated. So it means that organization means formal structure. And within that formal structure of authority, the work is to be subdivided. Who will do what type of the work, and we have to arrange, and again we have to coordinate, and we have defined that function of everyone. So within an organization, for example, education is a department. Within that, if you say from peon to the secretary of the education department, then everybody has different work to do. So all the work has to be arranged, defined, subdivided, and coordinated. Then the next S in the post curve, which stands for staffing, which means the recruitment and training of persons. For any organization to run or public administration to run, we need certain staff. For that, we need the recruitment, and we have to train these personnel and their condition of the work. Suppose we will recruit the person and without giving them training, how they will come to know what type of the work they have to do. So staffing, which includes both the recruitment as well as the training. Then in the post curve D comes D for directing, which means making decisions and issuing orders and instructions. As you know, in the management, in the public or private administration, in the public administration especially, the decision used to be taken by the management higher authorities. And in this taking decision and issuing the order, once you will take the decision, but how to implement, you have to issue the order and instruction. So in the post curve, D stands for making decision and issuing order and instruction. Then comes after the planning, organization, staffing and directing. Now the important comes that CO, which in the post curve stands for coordinating, means interrelating the work of various divisions, sections and other part of the organization. Because as I told you, if you take the education as a department or as an organization, then from peon to secretary, every department, because primary education, secondary, higher, so all this education department within the primary also there is clerk, peon, teacher, management, everybody is there. So the job here is to coordinate. So coordination means the interrelating the work of various divisions and sections and other part of the organization. Then comes the R for reporting in the post curve, which means informing the superior within the agency to whom the executive is responsible about what is going on. D, D stands for directing, which comes from the top to bottom. But reporting stands from the bottom to up. Means you have to inform the superior within the agency to whom the executive is responsible what is going within the organization. So you have to report every time your higher authorities. Then the important B for budgeting. As you know, without any financial things, you the financial planning, controlling and accounting, any organization cannot run. So post curve is a important under the scope. So it includes only those activities which involves the technique of management and are common to all the organization, all type of. So according to this view, scope of public administration is limited to the technique of management. So post curve which I told you. So according to Gullick, post curve activities are common to all organizations. It is not only for some organ, it is common to every organization. They are the common problems of the management which are found in different agencies regardless of the nature of the work they do. And basically, if you see, the post curve gives unity, certainty, and definiteness and make the study more systematic. So this talks about the post curve view takes into consideration, as I told you, only the common technique of the public administration, but it ignores the subject matters which with which the agency is concerned. We have in the post curve view talks about the how plans should be made, how organization has to come, how coordination, how staffing, how reporting, how budgeting. But what is the subject matter? So postcard doesn't talk about the subject matter. So there is, so on this scope we came to know the 7 elements of the administration which I have discussed just now. So if you will see that the public administration writers or the thinkers who have criticized this view, they say that post-curve activities were neither whole of the administration nor even the most important part. It says that it fails to give us the knowledge about various fields of administrative activity in which these techniques are applied. So the subject matter is lacking here. So then the next comes the subject matter. So subject matters, it evolved in reaction to the post-curve view. As the post-curve view is technique oriented rather than subject oriented. So it ignores the element involved in the public administration. So it lacks the knowledge of subject matter. The subject matter view lays emphasis on the service rendered and functions performed by the administrative agencies. So this view advocated that the substantive problem of any agency depends upon the subject matter, that is service and function with which it is concerned. Therefore, the study of public administration should deal with both the processes, that is post-curve technique, and the substantive concern also. So public administration comprises the following major areas or the specialized area, that is organizational theory and behavior, public personal administration, public financial administration, comparative and development administration, public policy analysis. So here the point is that post-curve and subject matters view are not mutually exclusive, but it complement to each other. So they together constitute the proper scope of public administration. So then another point here comes. So this is the total in the scope of public administration when you study or when you write in the exam. Basically comes two type. One is post-curve view. Second one is your subject matter. Within the subject matter, various subject will come that I have told you. And if you'll see the distinction, because the major concern of administration is to properly organize men and material for achieving the desired end. Till now, whatever we have studied about the definition, nature and subject, from that we came to know in simple word, the major concern of administration is how to properly organize the men and the material for achieving a desired end. So it means that it is a cooperative group activity. So administration is truly universal and operate in all type of public and private organization. So administration occurs in both public and private institutional setting. Its nature depends upon the nature of setting and goals in which it is concerned. So on the basis of the nature of the institution setting, public administration can be roughly distinguished from private administration. So as you have started this yesterday, we came to know the administration, that administration is maybe private, maybe public. But how will distinguish? So we can distinguish it on the basis of nature of institutional setting. So public administration is a governmental administration concerned with achieving state purpose determined by state. So that is called public administration. At the same time, private administration, in the other hand, is concerned with the administration of private business organization. and it's distinct from public administration. So if we now let's discuss elaborately what is the basic difference between public administration and private administration, by which you will be able to find out which organization is what, public or private. And it is not myself, because various thinkers like Paul H. Appleby, Herbert Simon, Peter Drucker, in their own writings, they have made distinction between public and private administration. So one will take one by one. So according to Simon, the distinction between public and private administration relate mainly 3 points. One, public administration is bureaucratic, where private administration is business-like. So public administration is political, where private administration is non-political. Public administration is characterized by red tape, whereas private administration free from it. So Simon says that public administration is bureaucratic. As you know, public administration is related to the bureaucracy. So it is bureaucratic. But whereas private administration is nothing but the business in nature. Second, public administration is political because it works within the state framework. The elected representative, whatever they will work, they will make the policy. The job of the public administration is to implement that one. So public administration is political, whereas private administration is non-political in nature. So public administration is characterized by red tapeism. You must be heard when we will go to the Tahsil office or any our BDO office, we will see that many times the files are pending. So red tapeism is basic characteristics of the public administration, whereas private administration, it is free from it. It is the Simon's view. But if we see Sir Joseph Stamp, he has given 4 principles which differentiate between the public from the private administration. One, that is principle of uniformity. Common and uniform laws and regulations mostly regulate the public administration. It is everywhere the common and uniform law. But in private administration, you may not find this one. Second, the principle of external financial control. That is, the representative of the people through a legislative body controls these government revenues and heads of the executive. Then comes the principle of ministerial responsibility. Public administration is accountable to its political master. So indirectly, through these political masters, they are responsible to the people also. So the next point, that is principle of marginal return. The main objective of business or private administration ventures, you will find that main objective is the profit. However small it may be. But most of the objective of public administration can neither be measured in money terms nor checked by accountancy method. So the 4 principles which Sir Joseph Stamp says, one is principle of uniformity, principle of external financial control, third one, principle of ministerial responsibility, fourth one, principle of marginal return. So these are certain principles by which we will see the difference between the public and private administration. If you see that the writings of Flexi and Negro, he has pointed out that Government is also different from the private organization, as no private company can equal to it in size and diversity of activity. That's they are big and that's things. The more important distinction between the public administration may be described like one is political direction. Public administration is political, where private administration is non-political. Public administration takes place in a political context, as I already discussed. Then absence of profit motive, as I told you, private administration or private any ventures, their basic motive is profit. But primary purpose of the government organization is to provide the service to the people and promote social good. Then prestige. Public administration who serve in the government enjoy high status and prestige in comparison to the counterpart in the private enterprises. Especially it happens in the developing countries. If you see anybody is doing job in government service, he'll get more prestige. We used to so our society is like that. They give more prestige to a government when it's a private job. Then they will that. Then comes the service and cost. Most of the government spend more money than their income and the revenue. That is the reason for finding generally a deficit budget. That is the expenditure is exceeding the income. Conversely, the private administration income often exceed the expenditure without which they cannot survive. So the legal framework, that is the public administration, operates within a legal framework. It is rule oriented. So it means that the responsibility of the public administration are fixed by set of constitutional practices, laws and regulation. Government officials are obliged to act within their legal power, not the outside the law. Any government agencies, if you go anywhere, you will see that they used to work within that the government structure and government services. Because they have to legal framework is there. They will not go out of that. Public accountability, consistency of treatment, large scale of administration, official anonymous, lower level of efficiency. These are certain points which make the difference between the public administration and private administration. Now let's discuss about the similarity between the public and private administration. Various scholars, as I discussed, if you see that Henry Fowle, Mary P. Pollard and Luther Ulrich don't make any distinction between the public and private administration. According to them, you will not find any distinction between these two. The classical writers held the view that public and private administration are the undifferentiated member of genus of administration. So Henry Fowler, for example, says that there is only one administrative science which can be applied equally well to the public and private sector. So in his address, in the Second International Congress of Administrative Science, Fowle remarked that the meaning which I have given to the word administration and which have been generally adopted broaden the considerable the field of administrative science. There are certain similarity between the two type of administration which may be noted. Both public and private administration rely upon common skill, technique, procedure. For example, in private and public administration planning, it is a common thing. Staffing, recruitment and training, both equal in private and so it is the common skill, technique and procedure. In modern times, the principle of profit motive is not peculiar to the private administration because it is now accepted as a laudable objective for the public sector enterprises. Our public enterprises like Nalco, Tata Steel, Nalco, and others, the government enterprises, they also work for the profit. In personal management, the private organization have been influenced greatly by the practice of public organization. There is similar type of hierarchy management system both in public and private sectors. Both have same kind of organization structure, superior subordinate relations. The private concerns are also subject to many legal constraints. Government is exercising much control over the business firms through regulatory legislation such as taxation, monetary license policy. So consequently, they are not as free as they one used to be. Now private administration also comes under various governments regulation, control and all. So the point which I told in the differentiation legal, so that is sometimes it is not true. So both the public and private administration carries on continuous effort to improve the internal working, also for the efficient delivery and service things. So with this brief characterization, it could be stated that both the public and the private administration are placed in different environments. But this difference is more apparent than the real. We can say, but in real we will not find. That's why, according to Waldo, the generalization which distinguishes public administration from private administration by special care for equality of treatment, legal authorization of, and the responsibility of action, public justification of decision, financial probability are very limited applicability. In fact, public and private administration are the two species of the same genus, but they have special values and techniques of their own which give to each of the distinct character. So let us now discuss about the importance of public administration. So first, we should know the importance of public administration as a specialized subject of study. Why we are studying? What is the importance of public administration? Let's first study. The study of public administration, according to Woodrow Wilson, assumes a significant as consequence of complexity of the society, growing function of the state, and growth of the government and democratic lines. If you want to understand the complexity of the society, the growing functions of the state and the government, so you have to study the public administration. This exhaustive list of functions made to think as to how and in what direction these functions should be effectively performed. To this, Wilson suggested that there was a need to reform the government in the administrative field. So Wilson says the object of administrative study is to discover what government can properly and successfully does and how it can do these things with utmostly efficiency and least possible cost, either money or energy. So if we'll see that the significance of public administration, Henry Fowle says that the administrative process is universal. So modern state is described as administrative state. So it means the state is everywhere. Due to the increasing the complexity of modern life, we need the intervention of the state. And same way the increasing complexity, the intervention of the state also increased. In ancient time, need of citizens were limited. So more or less self-sufficient communities were there. But in modern times, scientific and industrial evolution have changed the situation. Means of production become complex, so it requires much greater degree of organizational effort. So many activities today can no longer be organized by citizens, privately or even by village or community. So the role of public administration, which was less in past because people were self-sufficient, their needs are limited, so the role of state is also limited at that time. But in modern times, it has increased a lot because no individual or no community or no village is self-sufficient. Therefore, government have to come forward to provide necessary infrastructural facility for organizing production as well as facilitating community living. So in that regard, we need huge investment required for communication and transport. Without government involvement, this communication and transport sector cannot be done by private or village entities. So public administration is required for law and order, public health, education, justice, defense, social welfare, and etc. So all these subjects. That's why there is significance to study of public administration. So public administration is regarded as a greater public administration is regarded as a greater modernization of nation builder and most important instrument of socio-economic transformation also. So I think why we have to study public administration, what is the significance, I think you people have got this now. So if you see in the developing countries, the public administration has many roles. So, and public administration basically and again, yeah, I can remind the role of public administration after the under the LPG, that is the liberalization, privatization, and globalization has increased. Since the 1980s, a number of countries have been influenced by the concept of LPG. In the 80s, India has also started the process of liberalization, privatization, and globalization. So one firm of LPG has entrusted the management of public sector enterprises partially or fully to private companies. So today the role of public administration in this LPG era is towards more of governance than the direct involvement. So public administration has to play enabling, collaborative, cooperative, partnership, regulatory role. And basically nowadays it is coming to the core areas such as defense, atomic energy, law and order, foreign policy. It has a direct role to play. So these are certain things we thought to talk, and this is with your introduction, and then if you come to, there is another subject, that is nature and typology of the organism. Because in the first unit we have tried to understand about the public administration, its meaning, nature, scope, then the importance, then the distinction between the public administration and private administration. But now we'll discuss about the importance of the organization by the administration. As we all know that administration is a cooperative group effort for the purpose of achieving predetermined objective or goals. So it is public administration, as I told you, that's why it is obvious that effort of different persons have to be accordance with the preconceived plan to avoid the confusion and working process. As yesterday I was discussing type of organization, so first the meaning, what do you mean by organization? So the word organizing springs from organism, which means structure with parts of component integrated in such a way that their relation to the whole govern their relation to each other. So organizing springs from the organism. What do you mean by organism? That the structure with parts of component integrated in such a way that their relation to the whole govern and their relation to each other. If you see the Nicholas Henry, he, according to him, organization are different creatures to the different people, looking at different facts of various organizations. Such phenomena appear to be unavoidable. If you see the definition of Chester Barnard, he says organization is a system of consciously coordinated personal activity or force of two or more persons. So it means it is a system of consciously coordinated activities. So if we'll see that, before we proceed to discuss about the organizational theory, we'll try to distinguish between the formal and informal organization. Mohit Bhattacharya had distinguished the formal organization from social organization or informal organization. According to him, formal organization is established for the explicit purpose of achieving certain goal and possesses rules designed to anticipate and shape behavior in the direction of these goals, and it has a formal status structure with clearly marked line of communication and authority. It means that in a simple word, Mohit Bhattacharya says that formal organization is established with certain explicit purpose. First point. It means it is established to achieve certain goal. To achieve that goal, there must be certain rule designed to anticipate and shape behavior in that direction of this goal. It means a goal will be there, a purpose will be there. To achieve that, there should be certain rules, regulation, and that rules, regulation will shape the behavior towards to achieve that. So it has a formal status structure which clearly mark line of communication and authority. Who will communicate to whom, how it should be mentioned. Whereas he observed the social life is carried on without the framework of explicit goal or rules which define the formal structure. So it is usually thought more appropriate to use the term social organization. So according to Chester Barnard, formal organization is a system of consciously coordinated activity or force of two or more persons, and such organization comes into existence only when there are persons able to communicate each other, one who are willing to contribute the action, third to accomplish common purpose. So, communication, willingness to serve, common purpose are the three basic elements in a formal organization. If we see the characteristics of formal organization, it means that it has clear defined structure of activity. As I told you, Mohit Bhattacharya, Bernard, and others' definition, I have clearly told it is a defined structure of activity, which is predetermined by the top management. A formal organization is relatively stable. A formal organization grows and expands. The organization structure is based on division of labor and specialization. So the structure is based on the job to be performed, not according to the individual who are performs the job. So the structure is based on the job to be performed, not according to individual who will perform. It is the job is important, not the individual. So the organization does not take into consider the emotional aspect. It is deliberately impersonal. So the authority and responsibility relationship created by the organizational structure are to be honored by everyone. So a formal organization and that has to be respected by everyone and followed by that. So organizational chart are usually drawn. All the positions from the general manager down to lower level appear on the formal chart of the organization. That you should have knowledge to know who will communicate whom and what to be communicated. And if we'll go to the informal or social organization, as Mohit Bhattacharya says, it is generally a society evolve its own unwritten laws, beliefs, and control regarding what is desired behavior and what is undesired. This is what an informal organization does. Here people think and act like in a group, and this continuous cooperation gives rise to the common values and common codes of behavior. There is no codified. It has not have legal sanction. It has the people who has created or the society has created themselves. It forces the member of the group to observe the common rule. It is a very effective organization to impose penalties on or to punish those who violate these rules. So the leadership in it is informal. There is stratification also within an informal organization which is based on several functions. So it means that the function of informal organization is different from the formal organization. For example, the informal organizations generally it communication of unintelligible facts, opinions, suggestions, and suspicion which cannot easily pass through formal channels. It is a self-discipline of the group. So I think now you are clear about the formal and informal. Then we'll discuss about certain principles of the organization. So what do you mean by principle? Principle means is a standard or accepted guide to action. How we will behave, how a organization will behave, how a organization will run. That is a standard or accepted guide to action. If you see the word of LD wide, it is a hypothesis of proposition so adequately tested by observation or experiment that it may intelligently be put forward as a guide to action or as a mean to understanding something. So L.D. White, when talks about the principle, he says that a principle is generally a hypothesis or proposition which is adequately tested. How it will tested? It has to be tested through a observation or experiment method. And after the tested, if it is success, then it will put forward to guide a action or a means to understand something. Henry Fowle says that principle as a acknowledged truth regarded as processes on which one might rely. So same way the scholars like James D. Mooney, Henry Fowle, Luther Gulick and Urich, F.W. Taylor has evolved various principles of organization as a guiding for planning as a efficient organizational structure. So we'll discuss the principles of organizational evolved by some scholars. For example, by Henry Fowle. He has derived a set of 14 principles of the organization. What are? Division of work. Why division of work is necessary? To enable the labor to produce more and better the work and same the effort. So if who is better? Because one person cannot do all the things. So to bring efficiency in the organization or to enable the laborer to produce more and better, we need division of work. Second, he talks about the authority and responsibility. So every organization or every position of an organization has certain authority. Why authority has given? To carry out certain responsibility assigned him. So it is its natural consequence and essential counterpart. Whatsoever authority is exercised, responsible exists. It cannot go as excess authority, less responsibility. If you have authority, Same level of responsibility you need because authority is necessary to carry out the responsibility. Third one, he talks about the discipline. Discipline is nothing but the obedience. It means that, or it implies that members of the organization has to behave in accordance with the standing agreement between the organization and its member. Then comes the unity of command. That means the subordinate employee should receive order only one superior officer. If you receive more, then he will be confused. The work cannot carried out. Unity of direction. One head for each employee, one plan for each activity. If you put more, confusion will come. So subordination of individual interest to general interest. It means that the interest of organization should be above the individual and group interest. Then comes the remuneration of the personnel. It says that the salary paid to the service rendered by the employee should be fair, encouraging. It shall not be excessive payment or beyond reasonable limit. Then comes centralization, another principle. It simply indicates that all the responsibility or overall the responsibility is concentrated in the top executive. Then hierarchy or the scalar chain, another principle. It is the chain of authority running along the hierarchy from top level right down to the bottom level. Then comes the order. Then comes the equity. Organization should encourage an atmosphere of equity based on friendliness and justice in employer-employee relations to enable the employees to fulfill their duties with devotion. Then in the organization, another principle which Henry Fowles says, that is stability of the tenure. It means that it is not that the permanent will be there. A reasonable time should be provided for continuous stay in a job at a given place to enable the employee to settle down in that job, to adjust the requirement. It should not like that today I will join somewhere and within 1 month I will be going another. Then how will adjust with the work, with the environment of the work? Then comes another point, that is initiative. Initiative means the employees should be provided an opportunity to show their initiative with a view to improve their skill and sense of participation. The principles contribute the need of teamwork and the maintenance of the interpersonal relationship based on harmony and unity. These are principles, means there are 14 principles which Henry Fowles have discussed. If I'll go to the James D. Mooney and Riley, he says there are 4 principles of the organization. One is coordinating principle, second one scalar principle, third one the functional principle, fourth one the staff and life. Gollick has also given the 10 principle of organization, that is division of work or specialization based on departmental or organization, coordination through a hierarchy, deliberate coordination, or coordination through committees, decentralization, unity of command, staff and line, delegation, span of control. So, Gollick and Urich elaborated few principles together outline, that is principle of objective. What is the objective of the organization? What is the purpose of the organization? Division of work should be there. Principle of correspondence, scalar principle, principle of responsibility, principle of span of control, principle of the unity of command, principle of coordination, life and staff principles. So now we'll go to the different type of the organization. There are majorly Talcott person has classified. Yeah, before going to the type of the organization, we should know that organization has been divided on by the various scholars on the basis of size, ownership, legal status, area of operation, and other set of scholars who are defined based on the function or purpose, primary beneficiary, consumer and authority. So on that basis now we'll discuss that Talcott person has classified the organization into four type basis of their functions or goals solved by the organization. What are the four goals? One is production or economic organization. Certain organizations who produce the goods or make things which consumed by the society. So they are the economic organization. Political organization. This type of organization are concerned with the attainment of the political goal. That means they generate and allocate power within the society and also maintain peace and stability in the society. Legislature and government department are example of such organizations. Then comes the integrative organization. These organizations try to settle the conflict, integrate and coordinate various segments of the society to work together, provide stability in the society. Then pattern of maintenance. Same way, the Khan and others are defined four type of organization as above I have discussed. Max Weber had defined the authority on the basis of charismatic authority, traditional authority, legal and rational authority. Charismatic, it means the leader or set of disciplined follower. Because charisma, the exceptional quality he or she has. So people has a faith on that person. Traditional, in that type of the organization, the followers or the employee accept the authority of a person who occupies traditionally sanctioned position, head of the village. So means people have a tradition of that, from that family only head of the, and people will accept that because that based on the tradition. That means the domination would consist of personal servants, relative feudal lords. Then legal rational will be legally. And Luther and Gollick identified four bases or four principles of organization which popularly known as 4 P's. First P for purpose, that is function. Then second P for process. Third P P for people and then place. That means purpose, process, person and place. Organization based on the purpose or function, that is education department, law department, communication, transport department. So these are the specific function. Education department do the separate function, law department do the separate function. So these are on the basis of purpose or the function. Organization based on the processes. It means we can have a organization based on the processes or skills or specialization. For example, the account department, public work department, law. These are the based on the processes or the organization or specialized skill. Then based on person, for example, child welfare department, tribal welfare department, old pension department, unemployed, women, these are certain on the basis of person. Then based on the territory. Organization are created on the basis of place of territory or area to be served. For example, the railway organization spread across the nation on various zones or territory in the organism. For example, South Zone, East Zone, West Zone, Southeast, Southwest. So on the basis of specific territory. So countries and districts are the best example on the organization based. So these based on which the organization established, we have come to know and we have also discussed. So this is your second unit. Then comes your the third unit, which is development and growth of administrative theories. How this the development of administrative theory has come to the existence? How it is the growth? As from the starting, I told you, public administration is an integral part of the society. It is important, is pivotal both in the developed and developing countries. Public administration as a specialized academic field deals with essentially with the machinery and procedure of government. That's why according to Nicholas Henry, public administration purpose is to promote a superior understanding of government and its relationship with the society it governs, as well as to encourage public policies more responsive to the social needs and institute of managerial practical attendant to the effectiveness, efficiency and deeper human citizenships. So let's first to know what do you mean by theory. That means it is looking at or viewing a contemplation. Theory is a body of related principles dealing with systematically with the subject. It means the process of scientific theory, construction and confirmation can be viewed in the involving the following. So how a theory comes to it. First, formulation of a problem or problem based on observation. Then construction of a theory to provide an answer to that problem or problems based on induction from the observation. The deduction of specific hypothesis from the theory. Recasting the hypothesis in terms of specific measures and the operation required testing. So the devising a factual situation or test the theory. So these are certain points which I thought to discuss. So I'll take a 2 minutes, then I'll take some water, then we'll start. Yeah, yeah. I was teaching you. I was discussing with you about the administrative theory, how its evolution and flow. That was, I think, it is your unit three. If you see the administrative theories in traditionally has been the work of practitioner who practice this or the reformer, particularly in the USA. In the part of 20th century, American university began to take an active interest to bring reform in the government. So in 1914, American Political Science Association published a report which delineated the objective of the teaching of political science. One of the objective, so one of the so in 1914, as I told you, the American Political Science Association published a report which delineated the objective of the teaching of politics, why politics used to be taught. So in that, various one of the objectives stated was to prepare a specialist for government position because they want to bring reform in the government. So they need specialist for government position. Thus, public administration was recognized as an important sub-area of political science. The subject began to gain increasing recognition in the American university and its study was steadily spreading. In other words, public administration as a discipline was born in USA, as I told Woodrow Wilson and other things. So that country continued to enrich it even today. The single most important source literature in field of public administration is USA. The discipline has learned to reflect the American concern and in the process they tend to become universalized. As you know, the origin of the subject or the father of public administration used to say that Woodrow Wilson. So it means it has to study about the American concerns and that process is to be universalized. So a systematic and scientific study of public organization can be traced to the 19th and the part of the 20th century. In that regard, F.W. Taylor's the scientific management movement as also empirical. The movement has resounding the impact of government reform in USA. The early American administrative thought developed at the time when the Industrial Revolution was entering in a state of maturity. So the Industrial Revolution brought a large scale of complex organization. That means you have to respond and adjust to the demand and greater and better production in a rapidly moving competitive world. So from that, the concept of like economy and efficiency had become fairly prominent in the administrative theory because of their eminent relevance to the process of capacity building of an administrative system. Limited resource and growing demand of public service led to pressure for more efficient and economical operation government. So it has become prime thrust of the classical school of thought. On that, the F.W. Taylor and Henry Fowle were the foremost or the first to formulate certain principle, which was laterally synthesized as the principle quote unquote that form the basis of substance of classical approach to the study of public administration. So the aim of each principle is to raise the level of efficiency in the organization. So, but if you see the point of view of the public point administration, several doubt has raised to validate this principle in political setting. The principle has situational relevance. That's why Herbert Simon has criticized this principle and the proverbs. But even if that, because all principles are not universally applicable, it is on the context specific. But still, the classical theory has its relevance in the history of administrative thought. Then comes your Max Weber's bureaucratic theory. It brought an influence in the conceptual framework of public administration. If we consider Wilson as the pioneer of the discipline, Max Weber is the first theoretician who provides the discipline with a solid base. His ideal type of bureaucracy continued to remain a fundamental in any conceptual organization. For Weber, in a shortcut, I will say, bureaucracy was a control system based on rational rules which regulate the organizational structure and processes according to the technical knowledge and maximum efficiency. Then comes your modern society, where bureaucratic organization, contemporary bureaucratic analysis focused more on functional and dysfunctional aspect of bureaucratic administration. The cultural environment of bureaucracy, bureaucratic power, bureaucratization of the administrative culture. But Weber's bureaucratic model is the key conceptual construct in the administrative analysis. So then comes your human relation approach, which considered the functional of persistent of maximum utilization of human resource in an organization after the Second World War. When we will discuss human relation theory, there will come to know that how in the Haworthon experiment they have done. Then in 1930s and 40s, decision, how to take a decision. So decisional analysis was introduced in the administrative theory through the writings of Chester Barnard and Herbert Simon and etc. So it was basically the behavioral school which evolved first in Chicago University, entered the public administration domain through decisional analysis. So the main credit for this goes to the Herbert Simon. Then comes your others like other theories, various writings like Abraham Maslow, Douglas, Cherry Segris and others. It is the post-Second World War period. Because in the post-Second World War, it is emerged as the host of the developing nation in Asia and Africa. and newly independent countries development administration come to effect in this, where FW Riggs, Duituvaldo, Riggs prismatic Sala model is the most prominent in this. In the 1960s, USA was experiencing series of crises. Out of that, the new public administration came to effect. So then after that in 1980s, new public management come to the, then Osborne and Ted Gabler popularized the reinventing the government, that in 1992, because that time in liberalization LPG, they thought to reduce the government's role. Then Osborne, they thought that how to reinvent the government. Now the administrative theory has to vital part in the state's theory. So changing complexion of the administration has to contemplate with the context of changing nature of the state. So one by one we'll discuss these theories and how it come to the effect and how it is going on. So in that regard, if I'll see the first theory, that is comes your scientific management approach or theory, whatever you say. So I think scientific management theory is one of the most important approach in the administrative theory. Basically, this theory has come in the wake of new industrial revolution that has taken place during latter part of the 19th century. That is, scientific management approach is an attempt to solve the problems of complex organization that have emerged as a result of the industrial civilization or the industrial development. So before going to theory, just I'll discuss something, that is how the public administration has developed, the evolution of public administration. I told you the theory. Now as a subject, how public administration has developed, that is also important part in your subject. Public administration as an aspect of government activity as old as a political society, but as a field of systemic study, it is a new one, only about the 100 years old. In Indian context, if you will see, it has started with Kautilya's Arthashastra. It is the oldest text may be considered on public administration, where Kautilya has discussed what is the role of the king, how our state should run, and how the welfare programs, other things has to be carried out. Even if Plato and Aristotle, they have discussed about the style of administration in a Greek city-state. If we'll go and study about the Prince, which was written by Machiavelli, there he has advised properly administer the government. Then comes the Montesquieu, the spirit of law, where he has highlighted the administrative function can be guided by regulation of state, not necessarily by the law. So in this regard, you will see, but however, as a subject or separate subject originated in the USA, according to Rumki Basu, the following factors have contributed to this study in the 20th century. The one, the scientific management movement, which will teach tomorrow. The 19th industrial revolution. which gave rise to the large scale of organization. The emergence of the concept of welfare state, which replaced the police state, then movement of government's reform due to negative consequence of spoil system which was there in the USA. Santosh, am I audible? Are you clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible.
So in that regard evolution we used to discuss about two thinkers. One is Golmbesky's development phase, then comes to the Nicholas Henry's phase. In the Golmbesky's evolution phase, one, he says that the analytical political administration distinction. Second phase, he used to say that concrete politics and administrative distinction. First, analytical politics administration distinction. Second, concrete. Then the science of management. Then the public policy approach. So Golmbesky has divided this development force into a matrix which he has said locus and focus by a force cell, that is 2 by 2 matrix. Here he refers to focus, which means the analytical target of public administration. It means what, with which specialists are concerned. The locus, which refers directly where, to the context that are conceived to elicit the phenomenal interest. So both this focus and locus are distinguished as as relatively specialized, unspecialized. So in the page 1, he has analytic distinction of politics and administration. It means he has interpreted as an ideal category of function of the government, which functions are performed by different institutions in various degree. Then the second page, which has said the concrete distinction, that is politics from administration, which former considered a real locus in the interaction between the legislature and a high-level member of the executive, and the latter as having the real locus in bulk of public bureaucracy. Third page is science of management, which he emphasized the isolation and analysis of the administrative process or dynamic activities or principles, various principles as I told you, Luther, Gulick and Urich, they have given different principles and other things. So in these phases, these principles are developed. And the last phase, that is toward the public policy, in which politics and administration communicable, which unspecified of the locus and encompasses the total set of public and private institutions and processes that are relevant to that. But if we see the Nicholas Henry's, Nicholas Henry used the notion of locus and focus of the Gramsci in reviewing the intellectual development of public administration. He suggested that public administration has developed as an academic field through a succession of 5 overlapping paradigms. The first point he has discussed, that is politics administration dichotomy. It starts with 1900 to 1926. That means the beginning of evolution of public administration, the basic themes of politics and administration dichotomy. In a simple word, politics and administration, politics is the job of the legislature or the elected representative. Administration, it is the execution. Politics is the legislate the policy or make the policy. Administration job is the day. They thought that it should be different. They should not. So publication of Woodrow Wilson, that is yesterday I told you, the study of administration 1887. Then comes the Frank J. Goodnow, who has published Politics and Administration in 1900. It means they have made a sharp conceptual distinction between the politics and administration. If I quote here the quote of the Goodnow, he says, politics has to do with policies or expression of the state will, whereas the administration has to do with the execution of those policies. Like Wilson, Goodnow also argues for the promotion of public administration as an independent and separate discipline. If Woodrow Wilson is the father of public administration, then Goodnow is considered a father of American public administration. Then in 1926, L.D. White has published that is called Introduction to the Study of Public Administration, which is considered as the first textbook in the public administration. So this was the period of public service movement. The subject of public administration picked up academic legitimacy. So American University began to offer the course of public administration because from here the public administration has started. So locus of the government here was defined. Then the second phase that starts with the principle of administration. It was basically after the Second World War. The US and the Western Europe were changing from the rural agricultural society to an urban industrial nation, which I told you that it has changed according to society, according to situation, industrial revolution, and other things. So this required a considerable response because from development from the changing from rural society or rural agricultural society to an urban industrialization, the change will need major things. So this required a considerable response from public administration because so many functions and function programs would be established. As the population become increasing in urban, vastly expanded programs would be needed in public work, public health, and public safety. So public administration as an activity was booming all during 1920s. So public administration reached its reputational zenith during this stage. So this paradigm, second paradigm, is known as the golden era for the public administration. Here, as I told you previously, the efficiency was basic focus. The focus on public administration, the focus on administrative principles that could be applied everyone. This time, the development of scientific management theory, Weberian bureaucratic theory, Gulick's Uric post-curve theory, Marx theory of participatory management, even if Elton Mayo theory 1933 gave a consciousness of the most famous management studies. Then the third, that is the challenges to the paradigm 3. It starts with the Chester Barnard's function of the executive, as I told you how the theory are developed. Barnard saw the organization as a cooperative system where the function of executive was to maintain dynamic equilibrium between the needs of the organization, needs of the employees. In order to do this, management had to be aware about interdependent nature of the formal and informal organization. So Bernard emphasized the significant role of informal organization. So this time, as I told you, the Elton Mayo humanistic challenge, behavioral challenge, then administrative responsibility. So the most serious challenge came from the Paul Abloh, Herbert Simon, Robert Dahl, and etc. By 1950, the two defining pillars of public administration, that is the politics oblique administration dichotomy and the principle of administration, have been abandoned by creative intellects in the field. So these abandonment left public administration bereft of a distinct epistemological and intellectual activity. Then comes the paradigm 3, that is public administration as a political science. By the end of Second World War, public administration is in USA and other Western countries, the development of modern bureaucracy. But the principle of administrative But the principle of administration as exposed by the scientific management movement proved to be increasingly inadequate when gauged with the size and complexity. Some of the scholars of public administration, basically in the post-war period, new challenges to the traditional theme of administration. So, some of the scholars of public administration returned to the political science, the mother of science. However, they are not encouraged by political scientists. Then the fourth phase, that is public administration as a management or administrative science, starts with 1956 and ends with 1970. Partly because of the second class citizenship status in a number of political departments of the universities, some scholars in public administration began searching for an alternative because they were not given, as I told you previously. The management option, which sometimes is called administrative science or generic science, was a viable alternative to public administration. So they argued that administration is administration irrespective of setting. So journalist time, the Journal of Administrative Science quarterly was published in 1956. Then this time the academic work like Organization was published by Herbert Simon, Richard Searle, like Behavioral Theory Film, Marx Handbook of Organization, James D. Organization in Organizational Development in the early 1960s. The organizational development began in rapid rise, especially in the management. So the period of paradigm 3 and paradigm 4 can be combined and called as a crisis of identity. That is from 48 to 70. With the rejection of politics administration dichotomy and the principle of administration, public administration has suffered as a crisis of identity. Scholars of public administration has reacted this in two ways. Some of them has returned to the fold of political science and some of them have involved in the management or administrative science. So the paradigm 5, which is still going, public administration as a public administration. In 1970, the National Association of School of Public Affairs and Administration it has established. And these formations represent not only an act of the session by the public administration scholar from the political science or management science, but rise to the self-confidence as well. So progress, particularly in the area of organizational theory and informal science, has been made this direction. Additionally, considerable progress has been made in refining the applied techniques and methodologies of public administration. So the term public affairs and public policy became popular. As I told you, in this phase, new public administration, reinventing government, new public management has started. So, till now, I have completed the meaning, definition, nature, scope, significance, evolution of the public administration. Santosh, am I clear? Anything doubt?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No doubt, sir.
Okay. Shall we go forward or tomorrow we'll go?
Tomorrow, sir. No
Okay.
members are found. Only I
Okay.
single.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Tomorrow we'll
Thank
go
you.
then. Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you.
sir.